Good evening. This is the Tuesday, January 16th meeting of nominations and committee applications. We have two scheduled for tonight. One has asked to be rescheduled, and we're waiting to see if the other will be able to show up, especially with the way the weather is. So the first item on the agenda will be for the committee to nominate a chair to run the meeting. And are there any nominations from the floor? And for, I guess I should introduce everybody too, before I forget. I'm Councilor Chris Miller from District 6. We also have Councilor Wesley Butler from District 4 and Councilor Vanessa Campos from District 1. So, Councilor Campos, this is her first time on the committee. So if we discuss things that you're not familiar, just ask a question. And it's also good for the people that are watching too, that we explain things so that everybody has a good understanding. Back to the chair, the role basically means that someone needs to run the meeting. It's fairly basic. Shelley Smith does the agenda for the committee. The chairperson's job is just to make sure that the meeting runs smoothly. So again, any nominations from the floor?
Yes, and only if he accepts. I hope he does, but I want to nominate you, Chris Miller, to be our chair.
I was going to say Wesley Butler. Are there any other nominations? Then, do we need to take a vote? Shall we? So, I mean, there's just three of us.
Yeah, no, you don't. This is, like I said, this is a lot less formal than the other council meetings, so that's fine.
Okay. Thank you for the nomination, Wes, and I'll be happy to run the meeting. I actually started about maybe 6 months ago from Councilor Marcia Goodman Hendershitz when she knew she wasn't going to rerun. So I'm happy to do it. Shelley, do you just want to give an overview of the process so that Councilor Campos is familiar with it, also for the people watching too?
Sure. The city has an application form that they complete with some background, some basic name, address, birth date, where they're employed, whether or not they're a student, what board they're interested in, why they're interested, and then a little bit of background of their qualifications for that board, just kind of to reinforce why they're interested in that specific board. Those applications come to the city clerk's office, and I review the applications. I run a basic, what we call a background check. It's not like the FBI kind of background check. I check for outstanding taxes, water bills, parking tickets, property maintenance issues that they may have, and whether or not they have any open warrants. If that is all negative, I send the applicant to the mayor's office for his review, and they have a similar process that they do. Dolores, if she wants to speak to it specifically, they have a set of questions that she will call the applicant and ask about similar type of questions as what the committee asks when you see those list of questions. And then the mayor will or will not send over their recommendation for the person to move forward. If they do, then they will appear on your agenda. If they do not, I have a letter thanking them for applying and encouraging them to get involved in the city in a different way. So once the interview then happens, and you'll see in your packet a sample of what the questions are for appointments and reappointments. The questions are a little bit different based on the experience level of the applicant. The committee then determines whether or not to move the applicant forward for appointment or reappointment to the full body of council. And if you do make that recommendation, then I will prepare a resolution and you'll see that applicant's appointment or reappointment on the next council agenda.
Shelley, this is good to have this overview because now I'm starting to think of questions that I can't remember the answer to. So I'm glad that we're doing this. The people that are appointed, do all applicants need to go through the mayor's office for approval?
Not all, but it's a majority. Yes, there are a few that are specifically granted appointment authority. Excuse me, I have someone to let into the meeting. By the enabling legislation will specifically say by the body of council or by the legislative body or some other similar language, so that it does not necessarily mean that the mayor has to have their nomination. There's also a few that the mayor makes appointments to outside this process without council approval. So it kind of goes both ways, and it just depends. Each board is a little bit different.
And the other question I have, this is more for people that are watching. If someone applies for a board or a committee, and let's say there are multiple applicants and only one is picked because there's only one opening, the people who were not picked can apply for other boards and committees, correct?
That's correct, and we do encourage that, yes.
Okay. Can we talk a little bit about the difference between people who are on boards already and being reappointed versus people who are coming onto a board for the first time?
Sure. So the question sample, actually, there's two that are in your packet for each position that are there. You'll see the top section is kind of an overview of what the board does, what it's responsible for. And then there's the first set of questions for new appointments and a second set of questions that are for reappointments. And that was set up specifically because you need to have different information from each type of interview. If it's someone new, you're getting the basics of whether or not they have a basic understanding of what the board does that they've applied for and how they as a person will fit into that board and then into the greater operation of the city government overall. The reappointments are more about whether or not that person's fully engaged in their board, what they think their board does great, what they think their board might need to focus on to make some improvements, and then how the city may be able to help that process along. Things that the board needs that they don't feel like they're getting support, or things that they want to change, possibly legislatively needs to change before the board's processes can change. So it's a little bit more specific with the reappointments.
Okay. Councilor Campos, do you have any questions?
So when there's someone that's up for a reappointment and they first will let us know or let you know they do not wish to continue, Or if they do wish to continue, then they go into the reappointment process. They come in front of us and we ask those questions. Does one
Correct.
need to happen before the other? Let's say people look at the list and they see somebody's up, even though they want to get reappointed again and they have to go to the process, can someone still apply for that position? And then we would just look at the reappointments, whether or not to proceed, and then the new applicants. I was just, how does that work? Explain that, clarify that to me.
Sure. So, the city clerk's office has a master spreadsheet of all the boards, authorities, and commissions, all the members on each board, authority, and commission, when they were appointed or reappointed, and when their terms expire. So I monitor that on a monthly basis, and 2 months before their term expires, they get a friendly reminder from the office. Your term will expire on this day. Here's the application form. If you want to stay involved, please fill it out, send it back. If not, please email or call the office and let us know so that we can recruit to replace you. So that works out pretty well. Sometimes people will agree, or they'll say, I'll do this one more time and then that's it. I don't want to come back. Or they'll say, I'm not going to reapply, but I'll stay until you find someone so that there's no vacancies. So it just kind of depends on the board and the individual.
So basically, if they're interested in getting reappointed, that is not open to the public, like they cannot, um, they
Oh,
cannot.
yeah, so people can apply for we keep a rolling list on the website, and if the term has expired beyond, I usually give them a month or two, then I'll start advertising, because if I've not heard from you and you've not responded, then you probably aren't interested in staying. So then I'll start looking for other applicants. And then if the person reappoints, then I would most probably have them both come before this committee and then let the committee make the decision whether to reappoint that person or to bring on someone new. That's not my decision.
Okay, I think that's what I was trying to get at, whether or not we would be presented with both options and then we would decide, because the questions are different for a reason. So if, let's say, the
Correct.
answer is not as adequate, then maybe we should give somebody else an opportunity, but I wasn't sure if that's not open to the public because we have to still process the reappointment first, and if they get denied, then we can open it. So just understanding how that works.
Nope. So, and oftentimes, well, not oftentimes, occasionally, we'll have more applicants than we have seats. And then I will do the same thing. I'll bring 5 applicants to you all to pick 2 for the 2 seats that are vacant. Again, that's the committee's decision, not, I don't choose who sits where.
And then it would go to the mayor and then we would hear back.
Yep.
Any other questions? I have one, more for the viewing audience. For those who are interested, where would they find the information on what boards have vacancies?
On the city's website, if you click on the government tab, and then click on boards and commissions, you'll see on the right-hand side, there'll be a button. One is the application form, which you can print and postal mail in or scan and email, whichever is easier. And there's also a link on there of what our current vacancies are. So it will tell you which board it is, and how many vacancies we have.
Okay.
They can also call the office. We're glad to talk with anyone.
I see there's somebody on the screen. Is this Jose? I think you're muted.
No, we can't hear you.
check your volume.
Yeah, next to the microphone icon, there should be a little caret. If you click on that, you can turn up your microphone volume.
Not yet.
On the bottom left of the black part of your screen, there should be like what looks like an old time microphone. And then a little arrow pointing up. If you click on the arrow that's pointing up, it should give you options for your microphone. Sometimes the volume gets turned down low and then we can't hear you.
Shelley,
Yes.
we can either go on with the meeting and hope that the problem gets worked out with the applicant or reschedule.
Yeah, we can do either one.
Ask the applicant if he would like to reschedule.
Or can he text in the chat? Is he even able to do that?
Can you hear me? There.
Now we can.
Okay. My name. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I hope with I'm hearing like every other word. I think it might be good to reschedule. Can you hear me? Keep talking.
My name is Alpha.
Still,
Yeah,
It's
it's cutting
patchy.
in.
Hello. My name is Jose.
still, it's like every other word doesn't come through.
You've connected 2 times. Oop.
I believe so.
Ah.
Yes, I was gonna say, if you disconnect one of them, that might help your bandwidth. Oop, now he's completely gone.
Huh.
Let's see if he can come back in.
In the meantime, Shelley, can you explain the process after the applicants have been interviewed? What follows?
After the interview, then the committee considers the applicant, their application, and their answers to determine whether or not to move the appointment or reappointment forward to council.
And then the process for the applicant?
The applicant is notified once the resolution, if you choose to move them forward, they're contacted after the resolution is passed. If they're a new applicant, they get a nice packet from us with a charter, a code of ethics, a small explanation of what the board is and does, and a copy of their resolution. And we call it a responsibility. It's kind of a, the basics of you promise to come to meetings, you promise to engage, those kinds of things. And then they must come to Linda and get sworn in.
Okay, thank you. All right,
If
let's try this one more time.
If they're
Okay.
not appointed, they get a letter or an email from the office informing them of so.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes, much better.
very good.
I think I logged on twice.
Okay,
My name's Jose Delphi. I hold a seat with the Board of Electricians. And I apologize for being late. I had an emergency call, power outage. So, and I was trying to log on to my computer. So this is my wife's computer. So it was a slight delay.
not a problem. Thank you for appearing virtually, Mr. Delphi. The way the process works, we're going to ask you a couple questions. I have my fellow counselors with me. I'm Counselor Chris Miller from District 6. We also have Wesley Butler from District 4, and we have Vanessa Campos from District 1. So
Okay, thank you.
we will take turns asking questions. When we're done, if you have any questions, you can ask. I'll start out only because I usually ask this question when somebody is a reappointment versus coming in fresh, only because you've already been in this position. I'd like to hear your thoughts on what you feel works well with the Electricians Examining Board and what you feel where there could be improvement.
Okay, I still like the in-person versus virtual meetings. I like the one-on-one contact, talking and speaking to one another. Also, I think that we need more communication between the board and I guess the city. I feel like we don't have that communication as things that need to get done to better resolve issues within applicants and complaints that we get sometimes. Did you get that?
Got it. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to pass to my fellow counselors to see if they have any questions.
Hi, Jose. This is Councilman Butler. You had mentioned the communication with the city and getting stuff done. Can you give us an example and like particular of what's awaiting to get done that the city may be holding up on their end?
Well, just by communicating with us via internet or whatever they use to get a hold of us. Like I missed some meetings and I wasn't sure. Like I guess Chris Gels was handling these meetings, trying to get us, you know, together. And I guess, I don't know what happened. We couldn't, like me personally, I didn't get some of the invites to go to some meetings, and I see some applicants were approved without us even knowing. As far as I know, I'm not sure, but when I say communication, is whoever's in charge right now, the liaison. You know, before it was Jeffrey Bowers, I guess, and now it's Chris that was in charge of, Chris Gels that was in charge of letting us know. He was a liaison between the board and the applicants, and I wasn't personally getting any information as far as when the meetings were going to happen, when they change and stuff like that. So when I say communication, I mean communication as getting us together and communicating as far as when we're going to get together and the applicants and what's going on.
Okay, I understand. It seems from a leadership more standpoint.
Yeah.
I totally understand that. My next question is, are there any enforcement problems that you have become aware of since being on the board?
No.
No. Okay. Vanessa, do you have any questions?
No, the only thing I was thinking is, what has the board, I mean, in your opinion, what has the board done well so far? And I know you mentioned you appreciate not being virtual and being in person. Is there anything else that you guys have worked on that you feel proud of?
Guess we worked on changing the testing that we do. We did from paramedics, and we updated to ICC, where the applicants now can test via home versus going to a certain location or center to test. I believe that we provided applicants easier way to have access to all these resources as far as testing and doing exams and getting you know, the testing resources they need to properly to do an exam, I guess. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shelley, just one question. How long is the term for? Is it 2 years? Because I know this is the only opening, so.
I believe that the electrical board is 6 years. Give me one moment, I'll confirm that. Yes, it's a 6-year term.
Any other
And
questions?
I was going to just explain quickly, they have rotating expiration dates, so that's why it's only one vacancy now. So it's not a wholesale turnover. You kind of in and out so that there's always some experience on the board and not everyone is brand new all at the same time. And that's how we try to do all the boards and commissions.
Great, thank you.
And Jose, this is your second term?
This will be my second term, yes.
Shelley, is there a time frame of how many terms a person can be on a board?
There are no term limits on the board's authorities or commissions.
Okay, thank you.
It's kind of a natural turnover. After a while, people will want to move on to different things, try something new.
Okay.
They move away, their, you know, personal life has changed, so they're kind of in and out.
Thank you. Mr. Delphi, do you have any questions for us?
No.
Okay. All right. Shelley, do you want to explain to Mr. Delphi the process from this point on? I know you did to us, but.
Sure. So after you disconnect, the committee will discuss your appointment, reappointment in this case, make a determination if you will be reappointed. If they do reappoint you, you'll be on their meeting for city council next week formally, and then you'll get that packet in the mail from us like you did the first time, confirming your appointment.
Okay,
Thank you for appearing virtually, even though I know you don't like it. We appreciate that you took the time.
thank you,
Yeah.
Chris.
And thank you for serving your first term. We appreciate that. 6 years is definitely not
Thank
small time.
And agreeing to appear to be reappointed for a second term.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Good evening. Thank you again, and we'll move on with our meetings. But Mr. Delphi, you can stay if you wish, but you don't have to.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Thank you. Shelley, next.
So we don't have any other interviews today. So then you would determine whether or not you're going to reappoint Mr. Delphi. And then if you wish, we can do some additional reviews of the different kinds of information that's in the packet for the new members.
Okay, good. Any conversation on the applicant?
I have my vote would be yes to reappoint him. I think anytime we get reappointments in any of our boards, authorities, and commissions, I think that says something that people want to participate, especially the amount of years their terms are. So for him to want to continue for another 6, I think that says something about his commitment not only to his craft but to the city as well.
I just,
Wesley
go
is.
ahead. Go ahead.
I agree with Wesley as well. I think it's important to know how long the terms are. I don't know if they vary at different boards, but 6 years, like Wesley said, is a big investment, and to share his experience and expertise for that long with the city and then continue interest. That's definitely commended and appreciated. So my vote is yes, and hopefully, he continues for the next 6 years and moving forward.
Just a comment I wanted to make that Councilor Butler said about people who step up to be reappointed. It's absolutely right. It's a lot of time from when they could be doing something else. I don't mean it takes a lot of time, but people are to be commended who step forward, who want to serve on boards. However, since I've been on this committee, the one thing that I've realized is that there are some people who are on boards who have been on for a significant amount of time, and they are very honest and upfront that when they reapply, it's because no one else has. And they've made it known that they're ready to move on, but rather than leave a vacancy, they've stayed on the board. So I think there are some people who we really need to work somehow. I don't know what the answer is to get the word out about vacancies so that there is a turnover, that some of the boards don't have people that are on that are just there because there's no one else to take the place. And I can think of a couple boards where people have mentioned that. Blighted property zoning, the health board. The people understand how important these boards are and they step forward, but it's important to continue to have new people step forward too. So back to Mr. Delphi, the fact that he has been on the board already, I think the comments that he made were very straightforward. I appreciated that. And my vote is also yes. So, Shelley?
Okay, I will get that resolution ready for next week on Monday. The other thing I just wanted to review quickly in the packet that you all got, and my apologies that we're virtual, but the weather got the better of us today. The first memorandum that has the city seal and the list of all the names on it. It says pending applications. That's a way for me to let you all know who I have in process and where they are in the process. So all of the ones that are on here now that say they have the mayoral recommendation are on my desk waiting to get into the interview process. They've all been contacted to let them know there was going to be a delay because council was reorganizing. So they were all aware of that. And now that we are back, we'll be doing this every 2 weeks. We'll get us caught up again. The
You're right.
one after that, go ahead.
Sorry, if I can just add before I forget, to what Chris was mentioning, for clarity, Shelley, what's the difference between a board, a committee, and an authority, so that the public knows in general? And what is the role that these people in these boards do? Now, I know the boards vary; they're different depending on another, electrician, the zoning board, depending on the purpose of the board. But what exactly is the members responsible for when they are applying for these boards, authorities, or commission? And if you can clarify those three, please.
Sure. So the difference really is in the enabling legislation. Some, actually all the authorities are created by the state of Pennsylvania. So they act almost autonomously as their own organization. They may be called the Reading Parking Authority, but the city really has very minimal control over what the parking authority is and does. It's mostly state. So the city in that specific example sets the amount of the fines for parking infractions. That's one of the boards that the mayor makes appointments without council input. Each authority is a little bit different, and it does, and that's when in that email that I sent to you, Vanessa, it's really muddy. The charter talks about boards and commissions because it can't include authorities because they're state created. And it's mostly boards are locally created. The commissions vary, and authorities are all created by the state of Pennsylvania. The Planning Commission as well, that's part of the municipal planning code that the state of Pennsylvania does. So they're all a little bit different, and it's hard to categorize them easily. A board is this, an authority is that, and a commission is the other thing. So you get familiar with them as you work with them a little bit more. And I'm glad that you're on this committee, because I think that a little time will help make that clearer for you. What was the other question? I'm sorry.
The role of members in these boards, commissions, and authorities.
And that also varies. So as a board member, if you're on the planning commission, what your duties are going to be completely different from if you're on the animal control board. Each one is a little bit different. That's why the welcome packet has an explanation of what the board is and does, and a copy of the enabling legislation that will specify the board's responsibilities, quorums, officers, all of those things are specifically in each individual piece of legislation. So that's why we're really diligent about doing that, so people are not set. We don't want them to fail. We want them to succeed.
Thank you, Shelley.
You're welcome. So the next item in your packet looks like a chart or a grid. That is the same information essentially that's on the memo. It's just stated a little bit differently. So it shows you across the top which ones need the mayor support and the council approval, which ones the mayor do alone, and which ones council do alone. It tells you the number of members on that board, how many openings there are, and what, if any, applications I have pending. So that's another way to see kind of the same information that's on the other. That last bit, that's the master spreadsheet that I was telling you about. That's the list of all the boards, all the members, their term expirations, and appointments. So it also lists when they meet, if there's a staff liaison, if there are council liaisons. So that's where we keep track of everyone. And at last count, there were like 350, give or take, people that are involved as volunteers. So it's a lot of people to coordinate.
Okay, next.
So the last thing that's on there is a holdover from last year. The Nominations and Appointments Committee was considering doing a review of the applicant questions that we ask for all of the boards, authorities, and commissions. So I didn't put anything in the packet about that because I was unclear if this committee wanted to tackle that at this time, or if you wanted to focus on interviews first to get caught up. But that was something that the former committee was looking at to see if the questions could be changed a little bit to get some information differently or different types of information from the applicants.
I don't want to speak for the other committee members, but I think it would be only fair to do at least a few more interviews so that everybody understands the process before we would move forward with redesigning the questions. Maybe we could set like a time frame of like 2 months and then revisit looking at the questions.
Okay.
See if is everyone in agreement with that? Okay, I see a thumbs up. I see a thumbs up. Okay, good.
I'm sorry, Shelley. What were you saying about the questions?
So the committee in 2023, towards the end of the year, was discussing whether or not the interview questions should be amended, adjusted, some taken out, some added in, if there was different information that the committee wanted to get from the applicant. Just kind of different questions to ask rather than kind of having, we've been using these questions for several years now, just to kind of review them and make sure they're still the right questions to be asking. And each board's a little bit different, so you could change some of the questions. So it would just be a review to see if we need to update those at all.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I mean, I think we well, Vanessa just joined, but Chris, like I don't think you've always just been on script with the questions. I know sometimes you're off script because you may, you're feeding off or the applicant may bring up some information that, creates a new question that's not on our sheet. But yeah, I'm fine with that.
I think if we may end up not changing them, but to be fair to everybody on the committee, to have a chance to see the process, the way the questions are worded and asked, the replies from the applicants, and then just sort of as a housekeeping, just to see if the questions need to be updated or not. Maybe they're fine. Maybe there are some that need to be changed. Maybe it's only for specific boards, but I, the point is like what Wesley said. Yes, once you become familiar with the process, you can start to add additional questions that you feel are relevant. But I think the process is more the questions that are asked in the application, not the application, but the questions that are written for us to ask for any new people that come on the committee in the future. There would be just a guideline. It doesn't mean you have to just only answer those questions, but just to have a guideline in case somebody needed to know what the process is and what the basic questions are. But we can review that in a couple months. All right, anything else on that subject? Okay, next, before we run out of time.
You are almost out of time, but you're also out of topics.
Great.
So if I could just add,
I have one quick question, and then we can adjourn. Because of the number of applicants that are backlogged, what is the average number of applicants to appear per session?
Per session. So the most I would do, if there's no other topics on the agenda for discussion, I would do a max of 3. We try to, over the years, we've learned that they take 10 to 15 minutes per person. That gives you then enough time to decide whether or not you're going to move them forward to the council agenda. And then it gives you enough time, once you adjourn this meeting, to have a small break before you start your 5 o'clock meeting.
Perfect. All right. Any other questions?
so what I was going to say was I noticed, Shelly, there were like 2 agendas. So there was one, I think that's online. It's a little bit shorter. And then there was another one that you emailed out that's a little bit longer that includes the applicant's responses to additional questions.
Right. So
We
the
use-
one that's online does not include the applicant's the application itself. It includes the agenda, the questions and all of those memos that I gave you. Many years ago, the city solicitor determined that much of the information in the application was not public record. And so we don't post that part on the website. And that's the only reason why. I had been doing it, and he advised that I stop doing so. So it's either I redact the applicants, the applications to put them online, or I don't, and he just recommended that I don't include those. So that's why they're a little bit different.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. But we are able to use that application for our own that information for our own reference, because it would only be available to us because there's answers to questions in there that the applicant submitted.
Correct. Yep. That's why the committee gets it, but it's not public.
All right, thank you for clarifying.
Okay. I think that's it for this evening. I just want to say thank you for all the good questions, because I think in addition to us learning, it's also good when the public learns too about the process. So all questions are good questions. If there are no other matters of business, could I have a motion to adjourn?
You got it.
Okay, thank you, Wes. Meeting is adjourned. See everybody in 5 minutes.
Yep.
Good night.
See you.
Thank you.